The music cut out mid-song, but my ears were still ringing. I wasn't even drunk, though I wish I had been. Maybe then it wouldn't have burned so much watching her spin away from me. It was that look on her face, like I was just another shadow in the room while he was the only light. I hate how I stood there like some background prop, clutching a glass that had gone warm, waiting for her to glance back at me. She didn't. She didn't even hesitate when he pulled her closer during that last twirl. Everyone around was clapping, thinking it was all innocent fun, but I swear to God, I saw it. That little flicker in her eyes, like she'd forgotten I existed. I walked outside to breathe, or maybe just to stop shaking. The night air was cold, the kind of cold that bites through your jacket, but all I could think about was her laugh echoing in that hall. I must have stood there for 5 minutes, counting my own breaths just to keep from storming back in. When she finally came out, smiling, I didn't even let her speak. The words slipped out of me before I could soften them. If you step out there and dance with him again, then we'll be having a different talk. I didn't yell. I didn't have to. My voice cracked anyway, like it always does when I'm half angry, half terrified. She just stared at me, her smile fading like someone had pulled the plug on it. And for a second, I thought she was going to say sorry, or laugh it off, or anything. But she didn't. She just walked back inside, and I stood there like a fool, trying to convince myself I hadn't just lost something I didn't even know I was about to lose. And here's the worst part. I saw him follow her with his eyes. That man doesn't even know me. And yet, I felt like he'd already taken something from me I couldn't get back. When we got home that night, I told myself to let it go. I tried. I really did. Lillian went straight to bed without saying a word, and I stayed in the living room, staring at the TV while the screen flickered through late-night commercials I wasn't watching. I kept replaying that dance in my head, the way her body seemed to mold into his, the way she laughed like she was 16 again, like I'd never made her laugh like that in years. Maybe I hadn't. Maybe that's the problem. The next morning, I went outside to grab my jacket from the car, and that's when I saw it. A folded piece of paper tucked under the wiper. My heart sank before I even opened it. The handwriting wasn't familiar, messy, rushed. It said, "I hope she's worth losing." That's it. No name, no explanation, just those words. I froze on the driveway, feeling like my whole body had been unplugged from reality. Was this some sick joke? Did he write this? Did she? I wanted to run back inside, shake her awake, shove the note in her face and demand answers. But I didn't. I stuffed it in my pocket and walked back in like nothing happened. All day, I tried to keep it together. I texted her at work, just casual stuff, "How's your day? And did you sleep okay?" But she answered short, colder than usual. Maybe it was in my head, but I swear there's this distance now, like she's just pretending to be here. That night, I brought up the dance. I told her it made me uncomfortable, that seeing her with him felt wrong. She laughed, like I was some insecure high school kid who can't handle his girlfriend talking to another guy. And maybe she's right. Maybe I am insecure. But that note burned a hole in my pocket while she smirked and told me I was being ridiculous. I didn't show it to her. Not yet. I wanted to, but something told me to wait, to see if she'd slip. And God help me, I'm starting to notice every little thing. The way she hides her phone when it buzzes. The way she suddenly spends more time working late. Am I paranoid? Or am I finally seeing the cracks that were always there? That night, I couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet, too empty despite Lillian lying just a few feet away. I kept staring at the ceiling, turning over that damned note in my mind. I hope she's worth losing. Who writes something like that and leaves it on your car? The thought gnawed at me all night like a rat chewing through wood. By morning, I'd made a decision. If I was going to find out what was really going on, I had to dig deeper. I'm not proud of this, but I looked through her phone. Not everything, just enough to find out if my gut was right. At first, it was just innocent stuff. Messages from coworkers, reminders, a couple of photos from the charity event. But then, buried under a folder called Old Chats, I found him, Eli. They'd been talking for weeks. Not just casual conversations either. Texts filled with inside jokes, plans to meet, late-night messages that made my skin crawl. There was even a voice note. Her laughing, his voice low, urgent, promising something I wasn't part of. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours, trying to piece it all together. I didn't want to believe it. How could she keep this from me? How long had this been going on? And why was I the last to know? When she came back from work that evening, I asked about Eli. Her face went pale for a second before she masked it with a tired smile. "Just an old friend," she said. "Nothing to worry about." But I saw the flicker in her eyes, the hesitation that betrayed her calm tone. I wanted to scream, to shake her until she told me everything. But all I managed was a broken, "Who is he, Lillian?" She didn't answer. Instead, she left the room, and I was left alone with the silence that screamed louder than any words. I'm starting to realize this isn't just about a dance anymore. This is about trust, about all the little lies that build walls between two people. And I'm standing on the outside, watching the person I love slip further away, maybe into someone else's arms. The next few days felt like living underwater. Every sound, every glance, every silence between us was heavier than before. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't even pretend that everything was normal. I was trapped in my own mind, wrestling with the growing suspicion that I was losing her, not just to Eli, but to a version of her I'd never met. I decided I had to know more. Not just the texts or the phone calls, but why? Why had she shut me out? What was she hiding behind that carefully painted smile? One evening, after she'd fallen asleep, I heard her phone buzz again. My heart thumped painfully. I snatched it off the nightstand before she could wake. This time, the messages weren't hidden away. They popped up on the screen like a spotlight. But they weren't from Eli. They were from someone else, someone she'd never mentioned. The words were darker, more urgent. "We need to talk. It's time you decide where your loyalties lie. Don't trust anyone but me. You know what's at stake." I was shaking. Who was this person? And what the hell did they mean? The next day, I confronted Lillian. I cornered her near the kitchen, forcing her to look me in the eye. "Who else are you talking to?" I asked, voice barely more than a whisper, terrified of the answer. Her face twisted in a way I'd never seen before, a mix of fear and something like defiance. "It's complicated, Arthur. You don't understand." Then she did something I never expected. She reached out and closed the door behind her, locking it. That locked door felt like the barrier between the life I thought I had and a world I couldn't even imagine. I banged on it, begged for answers, but all I heard was silence. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about infidelity or betrayal. It was about secrets buried so deep that they threatened to destroy everything. And if I wanted to save us, I'd have to step into the darkness she was hiding, even if it broke me in the process. The locked door hung between us like a thick wall built overnight. I spent that night tossing and turning, wondering what secrets Lillian was guarding so fiercely. I knew one thing for sure. Whatever was behind that door wasn't just about me or Eli. It was bigger, darker, and way more complicated than I could handle. The next day, I decided I couldn't wait for her to come out on her own. I needed answers. So, while she was at work, I took her laptop, the one she always left unlocked, and started digging through everything. Emails, messages, files. At first, it was just normal stuff. Bills, shopping lists, work emails. Then I stumbled on a hidden folder titled Projects. Inside, there were documents, cryptic emails, and encrypted files I couldn't open without a password. But one email stood out. It was from an anonymous sender, only signed as M. The message was simple but chilling. Time is running out. She must choose loyalty or destruction. I tried to make sense of it. Who was M? What did loyalty mean in this context? And why was Lillian caught in the middle of something so dangerous? My phone buzzed suddenly, startling me. It was a text from Lillian, which was unusual. She rarely messaged during the day. The message was short but loaded with warning. "Please don't look for answers where you don't belong. It's safer for both of us." Safer? I was suffocating in this nightmare, and all she cared about was keeping me in the dark? That's when the bitterness started sinking in. I wasn't just losing her. I was losing the person I thought I knew. That evening, I waited for her to come home, planning to force the conversation, but when she walked in, her eyes were cold and distant. She barely acknowledged me before retreating to that locked door. I followed, desperate. "Lillian, we need to talk. Please." She stopped, looked at me with something that resembled pity, and said, "Arthur, some things are bigger than us. You can't fix this by digging through shadows." I realized then this wasn't a battle I could win with words or accusations. It was a war I wasn't prepared to fight, a war I might lose everything in. After Lillian's cold warning, the silence between us grew heavier, like a thick fog that swallowed every word I wanted to say. I felt like I was trapped in a movie where the plot twisted around me, but I had no idea who the villain was, or if I was the victim or just collateral damage. That night, I sat alone in the dark living room, staring at my phone, scrolling through those messages from M over and over. Each one was like a cryptic puzzle, and with every line I read, I felt myself sinking deeper into something I didn't understand but couldn't escape. She must choose loyalty or destruction. What choice did Lillian have? And what kind of destruction were they talking about? I started noticing things I hadn't before. The way she'd get up in the middle of the night, her phone clutched tight to her chest, the hushed phone call she took in the bathroom, even the way her eyes darted around the room when I tried to talk about us, like she was afraid someone, or something, was listening. One evening, when she thought I was asleep, I saw her sneak out the back door. I followed her at a distance, heart pounding so loud I was sure she'd hear it. She met with a man under the street lamp, the same man from the messages, M. They spoke in hushed tones, his face shadowed, but his voice sharp and commanding. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught a chilling phrase. There's no turning back. The plan moves forward, with or without her. I wanted to storm in, scream, beg her to come home, but I stayed frozen, terrified of what I might unleash. That night, when she returned, her face was pale, eyes glazed over like she'd been carrying a weight too heavy for any one person. "Arthur," she whispered, "you don't know what you're getting into. This isn't just about us anymore." I shook my head, feeling the walls closing in. I realized then I wasn't just fighting for my marriage. I was fighting for my sanity, my safety, maybe even my life. The days that followed felt like the slow unraveling of a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Lillian's distance grew colder, her eyes harder, and every time I tried to reach her, I felt a wall rising higher between us. She wasn't just hiding from me anymore. She was hiding from something darker, something I was desperate to understand but terrified to confront. One evening, I found myself wandering through the house, restless and searching for any clue, any crack in her armor. I was drawn to the basement, a place we rarely visited, filled with boxes and forgotten memories. That's when I noticed it, a door I'd never seen before, tucked behind some old furniture, its edges dusted in shadows. My heart pounded as I reached out and turned the handle. The door creaked open to reveal a small, dimly lit room, walls covered in photographs, scribbled notes, and maps pinned up like some detective's board. And in the center was a laptop, still logged in, blinking with unread messages. The photos were of her, but not the wife I knew. These were candid shots from places I'd never been, times when she claimed to be working late. There were pictures of meetings, handshakes, exchanges that looked more secretive than professional. Among the chaos was a folder named M's Orders, filled with lists, plans, and coded instructions. I sat down and started reading. The words made my blood run cold. Lillian wasn't just involved with someone dangerous. She was part of something much bigger, something that required silence, loyalty, and sacrifice. A new message popped up on the laptop screen from M. "She is the key. Protect her at all costs. If she betrays us, everything falls apart." Suddenly, everything clicked. The dances, the secret meetings, the locked door. Lillian wasn't just hiding a secret affair. She was trapped in a shadow world, and I was standing right outside, oblivious and helpless. I closed the door slowly, my mind racing. What did this mean for us? For me? And more terrifyingly, how far was I willing to go to save the woman I loved from a life I didn't understand? After discovering the hidden room and everything Lillian was entangled in, I felt like the ground had vanished beneath me. But something inside me shifted. I realized that if I wanted to save us, save her, I couldn't be a bystander anymore. I had to step into the shadows with her, no matter how dark they seemed. That night, I confronted Lillian with everything I'd found. For the first time in weeks, she didn't shut me out. Instead, tears welled in her eyes as she confessed the truth. "I was scared, Arthur. I didn't want you to get hurt. I thought I could protect you by keeping it all hidden." She told me about the pressure she'd been under, the threats, the manipulation from M, who wasn't just a person but a symbol of a dangerous world she'd been pulled into long before we met. But she promised me this. She wanted out. She wanted us. Together, we made a plan. I reached out to someone I trusted, someone outside that dangerous circle, and slowly, carefully, we started to untangle the web that held her captive. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't quick. But with every step, the distance between us began to close. The best part? Lillian started to smile again. The real smile, the one I fell in love with. We danced once more, but this time, just the two of us, without secrets or shadows between us. I'm still scared sometimes. I know the world she was involved in hasn't disappeared completely. But now, we face it together. And that makes all the difference.